You can replay your first week in a new city hour by hour, remembering which vendor sold better coffee that morning, or precisely where you sat across from your travel partner during dinner. But when you try to recall those years spent at the same job, the one with the predictable commute and the dependable routine, it is simply a muted wash of color, not a life. What happens to time, it seems, when it is comfortable? The hours do not vanish into nothingness. They are kept somewhere. You simply do not know where or how to retrieve them. We assume that our memory is a perfect recording device, an accurate archive holding the minute texture of every single day we have lived. That assumption, however, is wrong, and it is precisely this functional flaw in human biology that gives us those sections of life that feel like they were never fully occupied. The way your brain processes information operates on a principle of triage, constantly sorting what is important enough to keep and discarding the rest. It does not record minutes, it records change. Novelty is the great curator of our memories, and what feels routine, the repeating pattern of same desk tasks or predictable social gatherings, is dismissed as data surplus. We are designed to notice deviation from the mean. The first time you taste a particular spice, or when your boss assigns you a project completely unlike anything you have done before, that event activates rich, distinct neural pathways. Those moments flare brightly in the memory banks because they challenge the existing pattern of expectation. They demand recognition. This explains why we remember our vacations so vividly, but perhaps not the 4 years spent on solid ground doing the same thing every weekday afternoon. The mind has a natural economic tendency toward flatness when things are stable and secure. Stability is perceived as a kind of cognitive wallpaper. It requires little effort to process or recall. It merely becomes background noise until something drastic happens, a promotion, a move, an unexpected loss. The philosopher Henry Bergson spoke at length about the distinction between time measured by clocks and duration. He suggested that clock time is artificial, mechanical, dividing life into neat, countable segments of minutes and hours. But duration is different. It is the lived flow, the subjective experience of passing moment to passing moment. The beige smear you feel in your mind is perhaps an instance where your measured time, the years ticked off on a calendar, has become drastically unrepresentative of your internal duration. Some people spend their lives chasing novelty, constantly relocating or changing careers because they mistake newness for meaning. They fill every day with artificial flair, desperate to ensure that nothing is boring enough for the mind to dismiss it as pure background. This creates a peculiar exhaustion, a fatigue stemming from constant performance and attention, but at least the resulting memory remains rich. What if we viewed life not through the lens of perfect retention, but through the lens of resistance? A full life may not be one measured by how many unique experiences you catalog, but rather by what degree of yourself you manage to keep resistant to boredom. This requires a subtle shift in focus. Instead of judging whether years count, consider what gave those predictable periods an interior texture of your own making. The insight here is that the gap between external experience and internal meaning must be bridged deliberately. If routine compresses time, then perhaps we must learn how to expand it internally when the world outside appears steady. It cannot come from a change in job description or geographic location. It comes from small alterations in attention. This means learning to see the mundane thing, like the same commuter train window every day, not merely as transport, but as a container for observation. What did you notice about the way the light shifted on the opposite side of the tracks? Was there an interaction with another passenger? Not a major event, just a sustained moment of shared silence that felt slightly too deep to ignore. These are moments that resist being summarized by same. The goal is not some dramatic upheaval, and it cannot be any revolutionary leap. It is simply refusing to let the mind settle into its most efficient pattern recognition mode. You must practice observing the things you already do, treating the predictable moment as if it were a fragile photograph needing sharp focus. You are practicing noticing the difference between what happened to you and how profoundly you chose to receive it. Perhaps the mystery of the vanished years is not a failure of memory at all. Perhaps it is merely evidence that your quiet comfort was so complete, so thoroughly absorbed into the rhythm of being, that your consciousness finally allowed itself, for a time, to simply beck, rather than constantly needing to record its own importance. If this gave you something to sit with, that is what this channel is for. Small shifts in how you see your own life. I will see you in the next one.